Hello, and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri.
And Amy Cornell.
And I want to let Amy do the intro on this one, but we're doing another show on reviews just because it's always such a hot topic and it's always so important to authors. So we thought that it was worth a deep dive into this based on something that Amy found. But first, I want to give a shout out to Miss Katie, who just posted a review of the podcast, and her review was amazing. So Katie, if you're listening, we thank you so much. She also quoted Amy, which I told her when we were in the green room, now we have to start putting this on t-shirts. Just eat your broccoli, you're not entitled to anything. So Amy, props to you. You're being quoted everywhere.
Oh gosh, that's my children would be mortified, which means I love it.
That is so awesome. So tell our listeners, how did you stumble on the idea for the show, other than the fact that authors love reviews?
I know. So anybody that's been listening for a while knows that we often troll Reddit threads just in general, because it's a great way, not only in terms of finding content for the podcast, but it's also just a great way for us to keep up with what authors are concerned with. What are they focused on? I mean, we have discussions about how that potentially affects our programs, what we should be offering, because what y'all want help with is what we want to be addressing, And so in reviews, it's always one of those sticking points. And as Penny said, we just did an episode on reviews about getting reviews. But the other side, the kind of darker side of reviews, is that you really have to be careful with Amazon's terms of service, because one, it's unpredictable, like many things with Amazon, right, Penny? You don't know when Amazon is going to decide to target your page, and potentially one day you can have 50 reviews and the next day you could be down to 30 or even fewer. It's really wild. And I will say, Penny, this tends to be, which is why it complements our last show so well, because a lot of what we talked about on our last show was kind of higher level reviews, not necessarily everyday reader reviews. Not that we didn't focus on that a little, but everyday reader reviews is very much something that you need to focus on. And I think those are the ones that tend to trigger Amazon's terms of service more so than industry reviews and things like that.
Yeah, that's really true. And as you very smartly pointed out, the Amazon terms of service are a little bit of a moving target. And we all know that a few years ago, we were having endless conversations about Amazon just randomly pulling reviews. And it was indiscriminately in many cases, right?
That was the worst part. It drove me insane. Sorry to cut you off, but it was just, there's nothing worse because, everybody listening, we're typically working with, a handful of authors all at the same time, different genres, different topics, some are veterans, some are debut authors. So a lot of different authors in a lot of different positions. And what was being allowed for one author wasn't being allowed for another. And there's nothing more infuriating than when the rules aren't the same for everybody,
Yeah, it really is. It's very infuriating. And Amazon, anyway, we're going to get into this more. And I have many grievances with the way that this review process works. But that's not the focus of this particular show. The focus is to help you to get more reviews and keep more reviews. And I think that we all know, we all know the importance of reviews. Obviously it's an ego thing. Like, let's just admit that straight out. Like, we love to have lots of reviews. We look at pages that have, 1,000, 20,000, 30,000 reviews with, green with envy. Let's face it, right?
Yeah.
But part of the other reason is that, 93% of consumers, and this is not something that I just drummed up like out of my head, but 93% of consumers say online reviews absolutely purchase their buying decisions. And 49% trust reviews as much as they do personal recommendations. Here's the interesting thing, and we're going to talk a little bit about review numbers, because I think that this is also a question that we get a lot, like, how many reviews do I really have to have, which I definitely want to break down. Books with 50 plus reviews, so 50 and over, convert significantly better than books with fewer than 10 reviews. And this is, again, based on industry analysis across, author retail pages, right? So, readers, even though they don't really realize it, they're making calculated they're trusting this calculation basically in milliseconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other piece of it, though, too, and I won't burden this podcast with too many statistics as much as, I love these numbers, but, products/books with reviews see a 270% increase in purchase likelihood compared to those without reviews, which is one of the reasons why when we just did the Amazon ad show, Amy, and we talked about, don't advertise a naked book, right? Don't spend money on Amazon ads. I mean, there's a reason to do Amazon ads for algorithm sake, and that's a different conversation. But if you're running Amazon ads to make sales, specific sales, and your book has no reviews, that's a problem.
Right.
Right. So, and let's break down really quickly, and then we'll go into some other, I found a number, which is kind of really interesting, on how many fake reviews that Amazon has, which is sort of staggering. So conversion, so the determination on whether to make a purchase dramatically increases between 0 and 5 reviews, right? So now I know I threw out the number like 50 reviews, and for some of you listening, that may seem unattainable at this, juncture of your career. But after 20 reviews, apparently 20 plus reviews builds trust, right? Which is kind of, because 20 reviews for the majority of authors is pretty attainable, right? I mean, not right out of the gate, but
Right.
you know what I mean? It's pretty, 10 to 20 legitimate reviews can definitely materially improve your conversion rate. So that's something to also, to consider. I mean, Amy, when you're looking at books on Amazon, what kind of makes it or breaks it for you in terms of?
Yeah. And I think, we've talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning, reviews also to some degree should align with how old the book is, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Like, so if the book is brand new, not the end of the world if it doesn't, a lot of authors are so concerned that they have to have all these reviews land the first week the book is out. I mean, in an ideal world, how amazing would that be? But the logistics of that are just very hard to do. So don't beat yourself up over that, very narrow timing for when your book releases. Instead focus on long-term, review generation, honestly, because 10 reviews out of the gate, awesome. But if those are the only 10 reviews you ever get, that's going to peter out quickly. But when authors come to us and the book's been out a little while, even only, 6 months, and there's still no reviews, that leads us to wonder, what is the author been doing? Have you been trying to get reviews and you're not getting any? Have you not tried at all, which is actually maybe better,
Right.
better than asking and not receiving it all. But it really does matter. And I think it matters for all books, but it definitely matters. I mean, there's so many different, we could go down a rabbit hole with this, because I also look at, has the author published before? Do they have a bunch of reviews? Or, I mean, do they have a number of titles that never got any reviews? So what's going on there? Like, believe it or not, and yes, we hyper focus on these things because of what we do, but I can tell you, consumers, readers, they absolutely do as well. Those
Yeah.
reviews are very simple social proof of whether or not people like that book. And we talk about it all the time. People like what other people like. They want buying decisions to be easy. So having solid, thoughtful reviews, I mean, it can make or break, how successful your book is going to be.
Well, and to your point, a surge of 40 reviews in one day followed by absolute silence looks artificial, and Amazon's going to look at that, right?
Right.
As well. So what's really interesting is that in 2022 alone, Amazon removed 200 million suspected fake reviews.
Whoa.
Now, that was, right, 2022. Imagine where we are now. And what what really annoys me is I bet a lot of these were authors, which really makes me mad. Because I'll tell you something, I will look at an Amazon product and I'll see 5 reviews that are actually non-books, right? I'll see 5 reviews that are exactly the same.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about what Amazon really wants to see. So I know there's a whole debate about verified purchases and all this other stuff, and we're going to get into that first. So 2 things, and Amy, maybe we can just kind of take this list we can just take turns on this list. You can give away free copies of your book for honest feedback. People do it all the time. It's totally legit. It's fine. You cannot require a review in exchange for a free copy, technically, right?
I know, and those are very nuanced, aren't they?
Well, they're very nuanced. So here's the thing, though. So we've done shows on superfans, and I've written about superfans and everything. And one of the things that I tell authors is that, okay, so if you have an ARC group, also known as your superfan group, and you have 20 people on that list, let's say, and only half of them review the book, part of the membership into this exclusive program is that they have to post a review. So, are you requiring a review in exchange for a free copy? Yes. And I would argue with Amazon, although I'm sure that I would probably lose. I'm just saying. But, this is how the influencer world also works, right? So influencers get free product, they get free whatever, right?
Right.
They get a free cruise, or they get a free, something, Apple Watch or something, and in exchange for a review. So what I think that Amazon is getting at here is they want to kind of avoid people saying, here's a book, you must absolutely review it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Which again, is sort of counter to what I was just explaining. It's a very, I'll tell you something, Amazon's terms of service, and Amazon, if you're listening, we need to have a conversation. Amazon's terms of service is many times, especially in this particular bucket, super sketchy.
Yeah.
I don't really know how else to put it, right?
No, I honestly, I hate it. Not that I don't hate the idea of going after genuine, honest opinions and feedback by any means. But I just find this is a slight overreach in terms of it kind of cuts everybody off at the knees. It basically takes everything off the table, which I don't like at all, because
Right.
there are legitimate ways to incentivize people to leave reviews that I don't think alter the honesty of the review itself,
Right.
And
Exactly.
I think that should be the primary point, like honest opinions. Not 5-star reviews, not, if you're asking for honest, thoughtful feedback, I think that is what reviews are for, because the other notes we have on here never offer rewards, compensation, or perks tied to reviews. That literally covers everything, does it not? Perks. So not even like, no high fives even. Like we can't give you anything positive.
Right. You get nothing positive out of this at all.
Whatsoever. Yes.
Whatsoever. End of story. And at the same time, we know that, and I know, I'm sorry, I got us totally off track. I know that we have to stay on track for the show to make it so that it's not just a bitching session. But honestly, if I'm pitching influencers, and we pitch influencers all the time for our authors when we're doing their marketing, they are getting a book in exchange for an honest review. So, we don't demand it. Like, I'm not going to show up at their house and be like, why didn't you review our author? But at the same time,
some clients would like us to do that.
Right. Who shall remain nameless if you're listening. But at the same time, it's kind of understood. And the majority of reviewers and influencers are not going to request a book if they don't intend to post a review. And we've gotten those messages, like, oh, you know what, my to be read pile is too long or whatever. So, okay, Amazon, so challenge me. Like, I think they need a whole, revamp. But at the same time, where Amazon is getting this language, and I'll tell you where they're getting this language. So it feels super airy, fairy, and squirrely. It absolutely is. When Amazon is seeing you posting on your Facebook page, on your social channels, whatever those are, I will give you a copy of my book in exchange for a review, that flags Amazon. And believe it or not, Amazon has their tentacles in everything.
Yeah.
So that's where this becomes problematic. If you're posting like, you get a free tote bag, or you get a free this, you get a free that, in exchange for a review along with a free copy of the book,
Yep.
and you're posting that out for the entire world to see, Amazon's like, nope, that's problematic. The same
Right.
thing is true, and I don't want to step on your points, but the same thing is true is when, so for a long time, friends and family, I have such a hard time with this because I understand that sometimes those are your only go-tos. Like, I get that, but don't ask your mom to review your book, because that's just, it's a problem, right? And the majority of the time, and I think we did a show on this actually last year, we talked about how authors are always disappointed. They're like, well, all my friends and family said they'd buy my book, and nobody's bought my book, and nobody's reviewed my book. And that's kind of the norm. Like, it's not because they
Right.
don't like you or they don't want your success, but people get busy, or maybe it's not a genre they read or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you do, for in whatever bizarre Big Brother way, Amazon a lot of times spots that, and they'll delete those reviews, right?
But then we also see flat out, I've seen reviews where it's like, this is my nephew and he's just the best. It's like, really? That made it through? Like,
I know.
and this is why we get so pissed about this stuff, because it's like, it's not consistent across the board. And so but I mean, I guess their lack of consistency leaves it open for arguing to get your reviews back if they ever do get pulled,
Right.
because Amazon 100% cannot say that they're consistent with their review policies at all. And you could almost always find an example of somebody else, not that you want to throw a fellow author under the bus, but you could highlight a dozen other examples of how something that you get called out for is not being enforced across the board,
Right. Exactly. And the other thing, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but I have such strong feelings about this. Stop asking, not that any of our listeners do this, I'm just putting this out as a blanket statement. Stop asking to swap reviews. Like, just stop. I was at an event, I don't know, this was maybe 6 years ago or something anyway, and this author came up to me and was like, and I was actually selling books, and they were like, how about I give you my book in exchange for yours? Right. First off, that's a hard pass. I mean, I appreciate sort of the sentiment, but it wasn't even a genre that I read. Secondly, there are entire Facebook groups set up. I am not a member of these groups, but I do know that they exist. I think they still exist, where everybody on there is basically just swapping reviews.
Really?
Yeah. Hard pass. Don't do it. It seems tempting. Like, I get it. Everybody's desperate for reviews, right? But swapping reviews, I mean, there are so many problems with that we don't have to get into right now, but just don't do it. I mean, have you seen Facebook groups like this?
I have not.
Oh,
but I am not a big Facebook user.
right.
And the idea of being in a group with a bunch of people talking constantly just is kind of my personal version of hell. So,
right. Yeah.
a little tidbit into my psychology.
But I'm telling you, there are entire Facebook groups.
Oh, I believe you.
Not a member, don't want to be a member, don't invite me to be a member of your review swapping Facebook group. And, I don't mean to sound like a biatch, but don't ask to swap reviews. And the other piece of it, it's really bad form for a whole variety of reasons, because swapping reviews, and I know I'll let Amy kick off the next portion of this, but swapping reviews completely obliterates any effort that you make to build an actual fan base, launch team, arc team, whatever we want to call it. Because basically it's a one and done situation. And when you're done, your review will likely get pulled anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
So, maybe, so is there a compliant way to do this? I mean, there's a compliant way. Do you want to talk about that before we get into the review engine piece of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody listening by now has probably figured out you basically just have to do like a soft sell, you know? So if you enjoyed this book, I'd be grateful if you shared your honest thoughts on Amazon or Goodreads. Your feedback helps other readers discover new stories. Like, this is straightforward, it's honest, it stays compliant, it's not a hard sell on the review.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're literally just reminding, and that's really how people should be handling it. I think that's one of the sticking points with why this whole topic makes me so mad sometimes too is that Amazon gets, it's almost like they get so specific that at that point you're like, well, now I kind of want to do it this way. You know, like I feel like Amazon's giving me more ideas for things that I could be doing that they claim I shouldn't be doing. Does that make sense? It's like, well,
Yeah.
I feel like if they didn't mention this, a lot of people would just go about their business asking for reviews the way they should be. But because Amazon makes such a big deal about it, it's like, oh, wait, yeah, maybe I should be offering incentives, you know? Like, come on.
Yeah. I know. It's really ridiculous. So let's talk about the right way. And I know we don't spend a ton of time on this, but I think we've talked about um the right way to build,
Mm-hmm.
reviewers. You want to take the first one?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one, and I'd like your take, Penny. I think, an ARC team or a launch team is kind of a tricky thing for a lot of authors. It's one thing if you've been doing this a while and you've got a decent list and you have return buyers and you've got a network and you've been around for a little bit. But I think putting a lot of pressure on developing an ARC team is really challenging for newer authors that haven't been doing this a while, especially for your debut book, you know? And I think, and I see this with our clients sometimes too, is that they want to build early reviews, but then what do you do with them? Because if you do it too soon, the chances of people remembering to post on Amazon dwindle quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a website to put them on yet, that's also problematic. And it's very reasonable that not all authors have their final website up and running months in advance, you know? So I think like the ARC team is tough. If you have a mailing list and you've been at this for a while, then I think building an ARC team is great. And, if you use a platform like BookFunnel or something like that, that makes it very official, where you can track downloads and who's reading, and you have a great way to contact people, send those reminders, reminding them when the book releases, because obviously you do want those to convert to Amazon or Goodreads reviews eventually. But, but the tough part with this too, and you kind of have to just accept it, that when you start an ARC team early, especially if you're new at this, you have to be open to the fact that they're not all going to post a review once the book is finally out. I hate to say it.
Well, and I think that we've done shows on this, so I would suggest go back and
Yeah.
listen to some of those shows, because there are particular ways that you could work with your launch team. In other words, yeah, you don't want people to forget about you, but the idea behind having an actual active launch team is that they know the ropes, right? They know that you're giving them 30 days or whatever to finish the book, and the book doesn't launch until April, whatever, 10th, whatever, and the review can hit sometime in the next 5 days. Don't have them review on the same day that the book launches, because Amazon sometimes finds that suspect. I mean, you can have a review or two, but you don't want like 40 reviews, like I mentioned earlier, to hit on the same day. So part of this is also on you, the author, to educate your launch team, because I think a launch team is a great, great idea. In fact, I think the best thing that you can do for yourself is go back and listen to our newsletter podcast, our newsletter episode, grow your newsletter, and then go into the, building your fan base. I mean, that's the thing that is going to get you out of this, tricky Amazon review terms of service spiral, is to have your own launch team that's going to read the book. But you do have to give them, kind of a hard deadline.
Right.
So, and then they get, when we talked about in the episode, we don't have to get into that so much, they're going to get, appreciation. They get to be part of your special tribe and things like that. One of the best ways, by the way, to grow your launch team is adding a letter in the back of your book. And I'm going to tell you right now, I did this for an author that we worked with a whole bunch of years ago, and now it's a big thing. Now everybody talks about it. I'm just gonna say, I put it out like we were the first. Maybe we weren't the first, but we put a letter in the back of the book, and we said, I actually wrote the letter for her books because I said I want to try this out, and I said, thank you so much for reading, and it was just thank you for your time, for spending the time with these characters, etc. Would love a review and then a link to the retail page and link back to the retail page in the book, because in this particular genre, the majority were reading on ebook. So it was easy just to click over and leave a review. That matter note, and I'm going to cite this again, right? So at that time, so this author, so we put the back matter note in there, we put the letter to the readers in there. She got a book club featured deal, which we all know is very hard to get, and it was huge, right? So got the featured deal, discounted the book. The reviews on Amazon went from 20 to over 200.
Jeez.
From that promotion, yes, but also because readers they don't really know what to do at the end of the book. Like they typically at the end of the book is like the author bio, et cetera, et cetera. Put your book to work for you. And we've done shows on this. We don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but put people, get and encourage people to email you and put them on your newsletter list. Yeah. Those two things, you will become an expert in reviews and you will be able to do the next show with us. I'm telling you right now, it'll save you a ton of time. Amy, what am I missing from this?
No, I think these have been great. And I think because we've covered some of these, but I think we should cover because I think a lot of authors are still, they know what the rules are, but are still, I think, sometimes caught off guard, even how their reviews can get pulled, even if they're not breaking the rules per se. So
for sure. Yeah.
We cover some of those reasons why, like what triggers Amazon to take notice of your page. Yeah. Because we've had that happen with clients before where they're doing everything right and they still get targeted because of some sort of pattern that Amazon recognizes despite them not doing anything against the terms of service. So I think we should cover those just so if something does happen to you, you kind of have an idea of what Amazon's looking for. And when you start that support ticket to get those back, you know what to address. Okay.
Yeah.
So like Penny said, too many reviews at once, a big batch of reviews landing on the exact same day definitely looks suspicious. Especially if they, and this will come up through a few of these, especially if they're unverified and they're short, like one sentence at most reviews, like they just look like something that was cheaply bought and paid for, and probably from bots too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a big problem. And I will say that's one thing that I also look for sometimes on when I see a book and the reviews look a little suspect. I will go through and I'll actually click through to the profiles of some of their more recent reviews or some of the suspicious looking reviews. And go figure, more often than not, that person doesn't have a picture. They've reviewed like 3 or 4 things and they're super random, maybe a couple books and then some random kitchen appliance. You know what I mean? So clearly it looks like this person is signed up for some program where they, basically post reviews for whatever that they get offered, Yeah. So they don't have a lot of reviews. They definitely don't review a lot of books, especially if they don't review a lot of books in similar genres. I mean, I'm not going to knock people that like to read different genres, but true, honest reviews, legitimate ones, you'll tend to see patterns in what they review. Yeah. And so that's also something that Amazon looks for. So if you're getting reviews by a bunch of accounts that review really random stuff and it's very scattered, that is going to trigger them as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what else is really, so this is super shady, but we just have to put it out there. Amazon looks at your household IP address. So let's say you're at work and there are 25 people who are like, oh, I want to review your book. And they're all posting reviews from their office.
Yeah.
They will all get pulled because they're coming from the same IP address, which I know, again, sounds like super big brother, but Amazon looks at all of those things. Right. As well as, what Amy mentioned, but also the language of the review. So here's another really weird thing. Sometimes authors will actually give reviewers, because sometimes reviewers, like, especially, and maybe you have an ARC list and maybe they haven't reviewed a lot and everybody has to start somewhere. Like, I get it. But do not give them language to review.
Mm-hmm.
Because what will end up happening is that the language will sound similar across these reviews, and it'll spark Amazon's, like, it'll pique their curiosity enough that they'll get in there and take a look at it.
Isn't that wild?
It really is wild. And again, it's a little scary, but look, the horse has left the barn. So there's nothing that we can do about Amazon. We just have to, we're just living in the Amazon world. But
Right.
it is really interesting. And also reviews that, and look, a lot of us can't really do anything about reviews that don't have, if somebody that's reviewing the book isn't familiar with reviewing or didn't post a really, a long, thoughtful review, I get it. But posting reviews that just say, love the book, thanks.
Yeah.
That's also something, again, a lot of that's out of our control. But this is where, go back to the episode that we did on the super fans and street teams. And we I think we actually talked about the majority of it in that newsletter episode. So go find that one. We did talk about the vetting of, if you have an ARC group and why it's important to vet them for that very reason, so that you don't get a bunch of reviews like, hey, this was awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. The cadence absolutely matters. And for a number of reasons, it might sound easy to go and, go through one of those companies that's like, we'll get you 50 reviews in a week or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
That's only going to hurt your account. It's not going to help it. That is an unnatural cadence for reviews. You're better off, keeping your review outreach, which is what we talked about on a very recent episode. You're better off going after reviews consistently versus trying to check it off your list for the next 6 months all in one shot. You really are. And it's great for the algorithm. It's great for shoppers. You're better off getting a handful, 5 or fewer reviews every month than you are getting 50 reviews in a week. It's really 5 genuine reviews and continuing that momentum and keeping that going long term is so much better for your brand than, just a flash of not thoughtful, super short, truncated reviews like Penny was mentioning.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think, the too many reviews, that's always, there's a lot of review services out there. They all make me very, very nervous. In fact, we get a lot of them that write us because I am as an author, they don't necessarily do their due diligence and they're like, oh, this is a marketing company. They probably can do this on their own. But I'll get those emails like, oh, do you want to get more reviews for your book? And the email is barely coherent English.
Right.
And I'm like, they're like, oh, we can get you 50 reviews overnight. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that's going to be. And then not only will the reviews get pulled, but my ability to publish on Amazon, because Amazon's going to be like, well, you're just a joke show. We're not allowed to publish anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely not worth your account for sure.
By the way, the other thing I just want to mention, I have never heard this before, but we actually had an author who wrote to Amazon because they were concerned that some of the reviews on their Amazon retail page were fake.
Oh, God.
And Amazon, in response to this author honesty, Amazon pulled all the reviews.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Do you remember me
Yes.
about that? Yeah. So don't write to Amazon ever. And also the other piece of it though too is that once these reviews are pulled, there's literally no way to get them back. I mean, you can try, but Amazon basically they're all just laughing in the lunchroom. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, what did we miss? I think we covered pretty much everything, right?
I know we definitely, anybody listening to this now knows the rules. They know how we feel about the rules, right?
Very strong feelings about the rules.
Very strong feelings about the rules. And now you also know what to look out for. So in case this does happen to you or you notice reviews going missing, now you know kind of the patterns that Amazon looks for. But either way, absolutely fight it. I know it's hard. If these go missing, like Penny said, it's really hard to get them back. But if anything, you want to fight for your account. You know what I mean? In the integrity of your account.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I mean, we get people emailing us all the time, wondering if something is legit. And you're always welcome to ask us. And, you know, sometimes it is, and a lot of times it's not, because unfortunately there's a lot
Right.
of non-legit stuff out there. And I think that I didn't go down this Reddit string. I know you did, but I think that a lot of problems start with shortcuts, and shortcuts are always very tempting. I completely appreciate that, because writing the book was as hard as that is, really was the easy part. You know what I mean? That's kind of just the beginning. But take it from us, build your newsletter, build your tribe, build your ARC team. And those two things alone will save you so much in the long run. Absolutely. And it'll get you out of this, how do I get more reviews spiral? So, I think that covers it. Right?
Yay.
Yay. All right.
Good.
Listen, we love, speaking of reviews,
Right.
we love reviews wherever you listen to podcasts, for sure. And we also love it when you join our texting stream. And we want more questions, by the way. So send us questions, text the word podcast to 888-402-8940. Show ideas, questions. If you loved a particular quote, it's probably coming from Amy. You're welcome to text that to us as well. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.